Hi there. So this is interesting. I don't know if I've ever had an interview with an entrepreneur who has founded as many companies as you have. So I'd really be interested in learning a little bit more of your background, introduce yourself, and yeah, I want to get to know you a little bit and what you've been working on.
Hi Tara. Yeah, I'm a multi-entrepreneur or serial entrepreneur, and I founded my first company 20 years ago. So I've been doing this now for quite some time, and lots of ups and downs, and learning the brutal way. So yeah, I have lots of stories I could share. And first of all, I grew up in this entrepreneur family, and my dad was an IT entrepreneur, and this sort of mindset got. I was fed with this mindset since early childhood that nothing is impossible. The impossible may take a little longer time, but still try. And I went to US actually, and I lived in Montana for a year as an exchange student when I was 18 years old. And I remember one thing my dad told me, because I was like, this was like my third year in high school, and I was supposed to go back to take sort of the high school back home here in Norway. And and then he said, "Well, you actually have you've done something that is actually quite extraordinary. You've gone to a different country. You've taken sort of advanced classes.
Mhm.
Um, why? Because he knew I wanted to go to business school, and he challenged me, and I said, why don't you call the principal of the business school and ask if you can apply under special sort of circumstances to get into business school?" And I was like, that's, well, what's the risk? You can get a no, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why not try it? So I did that, and in Norway, as I guess in most countries, it's actually very strict rules for getting admitted to business schools. And then the principal loved my story, and he sent me to this sort of special admission group that could sort of authorize that. So I was let into business school without any of the sort of high school exams or the normal high school exams. So I didn't graduate from sort of high school really. I did now in the US because I was a senior in the US, but in sort of Norwegian terms, for the Norwegian exams, I actually don't have them, and that sort of taught me some interesting lessons about sort of challenging your assumptions, or sort of doing what sort of the system wants you to do versus trying to be a little different. And being different for this for me made me go start business school when I was 19 years old, and I uh, I took a fast track through business school. So I actually graduated when I was 22,
Wow.
completed my master, and yeah, it was 1 year less than sort of the norm, because I wanted to take some of the more advanced classes because that's where the fun was, right?
Yeah.
And then at business school, I actually have this. My master thesis was about Norwegian successful entrepreneurs. What do the best ones do differently? And I had in-depth interviews of yeah, 7 successful Norwegian entrepreneurs who've sort of gone all the way from having an idea to developing a successful company. And it was like a 3-4 hour interview with them, and I kind of dug into their mindset and their thinking and their assumptions, and what works, what doesn't work. And it was actually really, really interesting
Wow.
foundational input for my own yeah, my own startup life. Getting exposure to these people and to record what they said and sort of listen over and over again to kind of get the nuances, get sort of and systematize sort of the knowledge and the input in different areas. So I got a lot of valuable insights at sort of age 22. And then I went out after business school and I founded my first company. And yeah, straight on from business school. And that's like really swimming in the depth of water, right?
Absolutely. I was just going to say that. So, business school, I have an MBA, but I didn't feel like it prepared me enough for entrepreneurship, if you know what I'm sure you know what I mean by that.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like, business school, it's great. It teaches you how to manage money, but it doesn't really teach you how to make money, keep money 100%, but manage money. It does, but not to really make it. And, how to scale a business. These lessons that you learn as an entrepreneur, that's part of the hardship that I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs face. So, how many companies have you started? Do you? I like how you have to think about it.
Oh, I have to think about that one. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess it's about 10
Wow.
companies, but well, some of the well, even more if you have some. There are some smaller companies as well, but sort of yeah. My first company was an IT company that worked with advertising online, and this was like 2002. And the bandwidth was a huge issue.
Yeah.
We had a patent. We got very good quality at the time, and you could use that for ads. And we launched a global eBay campaign together with eBay and Media.com in the US, and that was like the third largest advertising agency. And we felt that now we really sort of hit the golden ticket.
Yeah.
eBay as a customer, come on, like if that's not proof, then what is? And then I was in DD with 2 investors, and they had 10 employees, I think 9 or 10. And then a negative article came in, actually about my father. It came in the newspaper, and the investors pulled off. They pulled out of the deal, and I was too reliant on getting money in, and I had a too high burn rate, and so that then the company collapsed. We worked with. We took down the cost. Worked the VP sales worked for 1 year to try to sell the technology, but that was like brutal first lesson for me. And it's like, we had actually an amazing technology, yet we weren't able to fund it, and without funding, then things stop. Yeah. It's one of the key mistakes the founders do. And for me, it was kind of fortunate that I got this lesson very early in my career, and I have a lot of respect for funding and sort of starting the process in the right time and working with the right people. And so funding is really key for a lot of the stuff I'm doing. And how do investors think? What are the risks? If you find the right type of investors, they're actually really good partners in helping you realize the startup vision. They should also be mentors. They should be people you look up to, people you want to work with, not just because of capital, but because they're good people. They're people you want to learn from. And for me, that there's you talked about sort of growth mindset, and for me this is really sort of key input. It's your ecosystem that you design around yourself. What kind of voices do you want in your life? Well, I want to hear the voices of very competent people, brilliant people that can help me improve. And the naysayers and all the critics, and it's like, yeah, get away. It's not that you should listen to critics, of course, but sort of it has to be constructive. It has to be not like internet trolling or Facebook trolling or these type of things. So for me, designing your ecosystem as a founder is really crucial, and it's all about people with integrity. And you kind of have to make some mistakes on the people side to really value that piece of it. But people with a good heart and in integrity is very key also for your ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. So you talk about an entrepreneur mindset. I like that because it is different, and you do have to be a different kind of person to be an entrepreneur, especially a serial entrepreneur, because you have so many uphill battles, right? No matter how much experience you have. But it's a mindset of that when you fail, when problems occur, that you keep getting back up, and that you learn from those problems, and develop methodologies and strategies so that you can improve, right? But it's you just can't get knocked down and stay that way as an entrepreneur, because your business will fail.
Yeah, and I think that mindset piece is actually really, really core. How do you view failure? What is failure? How do you define that? And I think you'll get many different answers depending on who you ask.
Mhm.
But for me, failure is actually failing to not learn from any given situation. So it's not the fact that you dared to try, you dared to take on the risk, you did your best, and you didn't succeed. For me, that's not failure. For me, sort of, we should applaud the people who try to dare. And you shouldn't avoid the daring because you are sort of trying to avoid failure, because then you're not taking on any risk if you constantly try to avoid failure. So for me, it's sort of do a thorough fundamental sort of analysis of each business case or each idea that you're working with. And you're the largest investor in any of these cases as a founder. Can you actually convince yourself that this is worth it? And on that road, you have lots of biases, and you kind of have to admit those biases very early on, or that you don't know everything, even though you think you know. You absolutely don't know everything. So how do you validate those biases as quickly as you can? For me, that is a lot about pitching your idea, testing out. So when you talk to one VC, for instance, and they have maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe 15 years experience, you're really tapping into all that experience. And then for me, it's like, what questions do they ask? Well, what are the first questions they actually ask about what I'm doing? Because that is like getting 15 years of experience right at your table, and it's like, have you been thinking about this? This lights up in my mind. And for me, it's like, do I have control over that risk? Do I understand that? So I have a lot of respect for the questions I get when I'm pitching, because it's a key input to me about potential weaknesses or blind spots. And I'm trying to reflect sort of, do I have good enough answers? And so pitching is it's of course about convincing others to join you, but it's also really about convincing yourself that do you know what you're doing? Do you understand this? Is it worth it to be doing this? And I see so many founders who work on projects that I'm thinking is like, is it worth it? Why do you work on this? It's like, it seems maybe like a brilliant idea you got, but there are a million things to be working on. Why did you decide this? It's like once you go for something as a startup, you have to expect to use 5 or 10 years. You have that passion to be there for 5 years or 10 years for this tiny little thing, or and it goes back to sort of the fundament of the thing, and finding really worthy problems. I wish I sort of could tell myself that sort of when I was 20 years old, or to work more on the fundament before sort of jumping into things. Now I've been raising a lot of capital. I was working in a solar cell company back in 2006. Was 26 years old. I got like a local CFO job. We invested 100 million euros about, and we grew the company from 88 to 330 employees. And it was also a very good sort of upbringing in the sense of working in a professional environment. The company got stock listed, the reporting to the stock exchange, sort of the figures, and being a really core CFO or sort of finance manager type. And that was also a very good fundament for me for the work I'm doing sort of after that, sort of working a lot in Excel and sort of getting these budgets together, working on assumptions, and sort of how do some assumptions, when you're changing assumptions come, or sort of what's the business case looking like. And I kind of to be really convinced about business cases, I usually have to make up my own Excel model because it's like systematizing your thinking and sort of how do all the factors play together. And it's not necessarily that sort of a value creation at the customer side actually lead to something that is a worthy business. So that's also quite key in sort of this assessment of what are worthy problems. Wow. Then competition. That's actually one of the first things I do when I have a new business case. It's what's the competitive landscape? Because if there are super big venture funded companies that are doing exactly the same, and you're a tiny startup that's not raising, you're about to raise money, or you want to raise money, well, then you better have a good edge compared to those well-financed, fast-growing startups. So versus, are you doing something where you don't have competition? And it's like, well, is that a market really you want to be in? Well, maybe, but maybe not. So there are many of these sort of key things that go into sort of the assessment. Back to sort of the solar cell company, I founded my sort of second company in 2007 together with Norzone Ventures, which is the leading venture capital company in Scandinavia, and based on an idea how you can utilize solar cells, or B-grade solar cells, and use lasers and algorithms to upgrade some of those from B class to A class. And that grew into 180 employees and 35 million euro revenue, and lots of great people. And there I deliberately decided to be CFO, even though I was the founder of the company. I recruited my own CEO and worked with, again, really great people.
That's amazing.
And that was, we raised 52 million euros of equity, and so from 3 VC funds, and it was a really great experience. And then the Chinese came and took this industry in sort of 2011, 2012, and now 90% of all solar cell production is in China. But when we went to eventually in 2015, we went to court, and then the chairman said to me, "Well, Havard, this can't be so bad for you. You have Norway's most expensive MBA. It cost us 52 million euros. Go use that for something good." and that's kind of sort of also a sort of a lesson on perspective and mindset. Really, is like, I don't look at that as a failure, even though we actually dissolved the company. We made so much good in that company, and then yeah, market conditions changed, and sort of competing with free capital like the Chinese had was it's virtually impossible for someone that require return on the capital. But sort of yeah, don't look at this as a sort of failure. It's you made a lot of great things. So this was a 180 employee company, 35 million euros, earning actually really good money for some years there.
Wow.
And yeah,
That's amazing. You've had quite a journey. But I would love to hear, I know you have a new project that you're working on that's very exciting. And I would love to hear more about that as well. And whatever information that you'd want to share.
yeah. Well, so now I made a few startups. Fast forward, I made a few exits 5 years ago, and then I could work with exactly what I wanted to do. And I was like, okay, what is that? what are worthy projects when you don't have to be an employee?
Mm-hmm.
And I used about 1 year to kind of establish the fundamentals for the robotics company you see in the background, Whatbots. And this is an autonomous robot that is cleaning fish farm nets when algae grows on anything underwater.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big problem when you farm fish, that the net, the oxygen is being blocked and diseases are attached in the net, and they get too heavy so you have to clean these nets. And they're doing that in a very sort of manual kind of robots, high pressure underwater discs that are cleaning this today. They're using a lot of resources, and it causes also some problems for the fish because of all the algae clouds that are loosened sort of when you do the high pressure cleaning. So we have a sort of a continuous robot for brushing off algae on a sort of biofilm level. So even before it gets sort of to grow, so you clean the net constantly every day, like you're basically your robot vacuum cleaner.
Wow.
It's autonomous, no human input, and this is I think is a very exciting company, and we have 1 patent granted and 5 patents pending, and it's using AI, it's using machine vision and good engineering to get this going. And yeah, progress is very good, step by step, sort of solving the challenges. And this is like industry 4.0. It's sort of the next level for fish farmers, and this is like a 10 billion euro annual business in Norway. So you have a strong home market. It's the 60% of all fish farming worldwide for salmon is right outside where we live. So it's sort of doing good for the community and creating interesting technology and working with sort of good customers and bringing those customers to the next level. So completely worth it, and exciting technology, also working with AI and machine vision and also sort of advanced robotics and sort of hardware and stuff. So this is I think this is absolutely a very exciting company, a huge future for and setting sort of the new standard for this industry.
So how did this idea come to be? And it's such an interesting idea. And that's part of what is so fascinating about startups in general, is that you take a problem that's existed for who knows how long, and then you develop a methodology to to solve that issue, right? So how did this idea come to you?
So been working with sort of robots for quite some time, and in the pursuit of finding worthy problems, I was searching for like a combination of things. So like a strong home market was actually quite important. I've been working in solar where sort of there was basically no home market. It's like everything was exported to Europe, and you actually had a disadvantage. So I was searching for a case where I could add a lot of value to sort of a strong home market. So we had many ideas on what to do for fish farmers, but this one just stood out as super interesting. And because you can create a lot of value for the end customer, if you solve the sort of autonomous robots part of this, when you create a lot of value, then you can also capture a significant part of that value, and that got me actually very excited about this. And it was a completely novel solution and a very different way of doing this than what others had been doing. And yeah, the kind of feedback. So I tested this with investors, I tested this with customers, with global experts, and constantly sort of seeking early validation for key assumptions. And risk, and to kind of understand this, as I said, to convince myself that this is actually really worth it. And I used about 1 year to land sort of the initial funding of 700,000 euros. And once we had that in place, then we sort of kicked this off in September 2020. Yeah, and I started sort of this project a year earlier. So it was about a year's sort of full-time work to get to do this. So and still now 2022, great progress. First three sort of pilot robots developed in sort of different stages, and looking actually very good.
That's amazing. And I wasn't even aware of this organization. So that's amazing. You're always working on something. You just don't stop.
Yeah. So then I had another in 2019. I also had founded a nanotech company. And this one is invented the most slippery surface on Earth.
Yeah.
So it's like way lower friction than Teflon. It's transparent, it's very durable. So you can imagine sort of you don't have to clean your windows or your eyewear, or you don't have to clean your car because nothing's sticking to this. So so also a super cool project. Those were the two companies I founded in 2019 together with the great people. So that's also a very key thing for me, is sort of finding some brilliant people to be working together with. And then brilliant people working on worthy problems, that's a very good combination.
Brilliant people working on worthy problems. I think that's a really good takeaway, because so many times as entrepreneurs, we think we have to take on everything ourselves. We have to learn everything ourselves. We have to do everything ourselves. And when you do that, you're operating at 1-to-1 leverage, and you grow about that much. And I think that's, a really important lesson for a lot of entrepreneurs out there who are listening to this and are struggling. If you work with other brilliant people that are also passionate and purposeful, then you will grow. But you can't do it by yourself. You just can't.
If you want to, it's like if you want to go fast, you can run yourself. But if you want to go far, you have to go with people.
Yep.
And every entrepreneurial journey is going far. You cannot do that alone. So, and for me, it's also like, again, back to this ecosystem. You design it around yourself. You can deliberately or not, you can decide your ecosystem. And for me, it was like, why would I not work with the brilliant people? It's like, come on, it's actually very self-evident. Of course, you want to work with brilliant people.
Yep.
To challenge you, to think differently from you, because you don't have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. Well, how do you take down the risk? Well, by bringing in clever minds. So it's kind of a no-brainer, actually. But in practice, I see many think very differently, because you don't have this growth mindset. You're not focused on learning as fast as you can.
Yeah.
And I think that is a really core for being an entrepreneur. That yeah, not fail fast, but sort of dare to take risk, learn from them from that, adjust, dare again, and keep on sort of improving your mindset, your actions, your businesses.
Yep.
So it's really core for everything I do.
That's brilliant. And that's, I think, a really important takeaway. Leave your ego at the door. We can't know everything, and that's okay. You're not supposed to. But
Mm.
if you want to have long, sustainable growth that lasts for years to come, then you're going to want to work with other brilliant people who, and it's a support system, it's an ecosystem, like you described. And I think that's just so important to the longevity of any business, really.
Mm.
You've got to find partners that, are as passionate and as purposeful and as brilliant as you and as driven as you. Otherwise, you're going to have stagnation of growth, or the company's going to go under. And
Yep.
nobody wants to hear that. So the best thing that any entrepreneur can do is to develop a growth mindset, a mindset that's not limited, that's not, ego driven,
Yep.
a mindset that's, inclusive with other people, and that you act as a corporate, a collective, really. I think that's a huge takeaway. And so many entrepreneurs, again, they just feel like they have it all figured out, and they have these egos, but then their company starts to not grow, and then they wonder why. So I think that's a really good takeaway. But the growth mindset aspect of it is, it's 100% true. And it's a good lesson for anybody, but especially an entrepreneur who is trying to tackle and solve really big, important problems in this world. So I really appreciate that, all of your wisdom and experience that you've had. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share? Any closing thoughts or elements?
I think sort of the check your biases, or check your key assumptions for whatever business you're going into. Uh, you can validate those assumptions super quickly if you do a structured process on doing that, and that for me is sort of really key for any of my businesses. And once you're convinced of that, then you get enthusiastic, you get good feedback, you can bring that enthusiasm to investors, you can start to create the ecosystem that you need around yourself. So I think that kind of sums up a lot of my thinking, at least.
No, that's perfect. That's great advice. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I will make sure that people connect with you. So I will leave your contact information.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Happy
then,
to connect.
yeah, absolutely. And then any website links as well. Everybody's going to be happy to support you. So the key takeaway is develop a really good, strong growth mindset, work with other brilliant people, but be purposeful, passionate about it. And then figure out those biases, figure out, a structure, figure out what are the assumptions, right? And where you fall in the marketplace. That's really important. So I really appreciate our time today. Thank you so much. And
Yeah,
this is
thank
going to
you,
be a
Tara.
great newsletter. Thank you so much for your inspiration.
Okay, bye
All
bye.
right. We'll see you soon.
See ya.